Meeting to order, please. Ms. Gina, could we have roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. President Osborne,
Here.
Secretary Cordova,
Here.
Member Hamilton,
Here.
Member Martin.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. The next item on our agenda is the pledge and salute with Mr. Cordova.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
The next item on our agenda this evening is to consider approving the minutes from the October 22nd meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 22nd meeting.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Abstain.
Oh. We have 3 yes and 1 abstention because he was not present. The next item on our agenda is to consider approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Gina, did you get? Okay, I can start seeing that. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is to fill the position vacated by Mrs. X. And so we are grateful to our 3 candidates for coming this evening. Just to kind of share how this is going to go, all 3 candidates will get exactly the same question. And so you can see how it would be unfair for the last person to hear the other 2 responses. So we're going to ask you to draw numbers in just a minute. So, and then to the 2 that are not on deck first, we'll ask you to please wait outside so that it's completely fair. And the interim, I would like for us to, we have the questions that we're going to be asking. I think there are 9 of them.
Yes.
And so to make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask a question, you want to just pick, I'll take the first 2. You guys want to just pick the numbers you want?
Yep.
And tell me, so.
You just want to go in order?
Okay, all right, so I'll do 1, 2, you do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 is just.
It's for them. 9 is
Yeah,
for
is
them.
their opportunity to ask us a question. So having said that, Ms. Russ, will you let them draw a number? And we are gonna have you come to the table and we have written questions for you to look at. Can't take it with you. You know, sometimes you forget when you're nervous what somebody has asked you, or maybe I'm speaking for myself. Herman, you're number 1.
Okay, it's just a minute. So
Okay.
in your packets for each candidate is a copy of the questions. You can take notes.
Okay.
So there'll be a fresh copy for each candidate, plus their application materials and eligibility questionnaire.
Would you like some water or something?
Sure, I'll take a water. Thank you.
And
Thank you,
give them
ma'am.
just a second to see how the folders are set up.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Sure, we have what we need.
Like you're just.
Right. Doesn't matter.
Yes,
That's why we moved you up. In the past, sometimes we've had to stand at the microphone, and that's very uncomfortable. So we'll try to make this comfortable, and everybody here is a nice human, so.
Very much appreciated.
So this is our very first candidate, Herman Chavez.
Thank you.
And so the first thing I'm going to ask you is, do you certify that the responses you provided on the board candidate eligibility questionnaire are correct and true?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so are you aware that based on some of the responses you provided regarding some convictions, you may not qualify under the district surety bond, which means that you could be a member of the board, but you could not hold an office?
I understand.
Okay, Thank you. So what motivates you to serve on the school board, and what specific experiences or skills do you bring to the role, Carmen? Like, include any experience if you've had starting on district parent advisory meetings or district planning teams, volunteering with kids, anything that might be relevant.
So what specific experiences or what motivate, let's start with what motivates me to serve on the school board.
Okay.
And what the basis of my motivation is my community. There's no doubt that our community is in desperate need of healing. It's very, very hard to see the place that I grew up and see the place that it is currently now. Whenever I was growing up, we loved the Clovis Wildcats. Those guys were rock stars to us. I went to elementary at La Casita Elementary. The football team would come and eat lunch with us. It was like the biggest thing ever. They would sign our autographs. We thought we'd like hit the lottery. And those kind of things are really what made Clovis great whenever I was growing up. And I would love to see that come back to our community. I don't have the answers of how it's going to end, but I know how it's going to start. And that's going to be with people like me willing to donate their time and their effort, putting their right foot forward and making this a better community. So that's really why I'm here. And I'm going to be here for any kind of public office in any way I can help my community, because that's my calling. As far as what specifics do I bring, I don't really have a lot of specifics as far as organization with kids. I've never really done anything like that. The most I've done as far as organizing teams, anything like that, I was a part of the Clovis Umpires Association, and I served as president for 2 years. It was a great 2 years, and that's really the only team building.
What sport was that, Carmen? What sport were you?
Softball.
Softball. Thank
Underhand softball, slow pitch, which is absolutely huge here in Clovis.
you. Mr. Hamilton?
I'm on number 2.
Great.
3, I'm sorry. How would you describe the primary responsibility of a school board member?
I believe a school board member should be a direct extension of the community they're representing. That's why we have districts. They nominate us in this position, and however my district is feeling, however their opinion is, I believe it's my job or any board member's job to bring their community's opinion to the board and make sure it's expressed and heard.
Would you like to expand on that more, or?
No, unless
I don't
you
want to
need
cut
to.
you off if you're not done. Number 4, Mr. Hamilton?
Okay, how do you envision building and maintaining positive, productive relationships with the superintendent, district administrators, and other staff while fulfilling your role as a board member?
I think it's relatively easy in our community. We're all very easy for the most part to get along with here. I mean, everybody on this board's really great to get along with. Miss Russ is no exception. Everybody that I've met throughout the schools is very easy to get along with, and there's no reason why we couldn't join hands moving forward. As far as the specifics, how we're going to do it is going to be communication. I believe communication is going to be the basis of all things moving forward. How you build relationships and how you maintain relationships is all throughout communication. So strong communication points is how I would start and maintain those relationships throughout my tenure.
Thank you.
What about?
Board members need to attend regular monthly meetings at 5:30 p.m. and occasionally travel outside of Clovis for required training. How would you adjust your schedule if necessary to allow you to attend meetings and complete the annual training?
It's absolutely not a problem. I'm sure they're going to give plenty of prior notice when we got to be there, how long we're going to be there. And as long as ample notice is given, I can make the adjustments on my end. My employer's 100% okay. He's a city commissioner here, so he's going to be okay with my public service, and he'll make adjustments, and we'll make adjustments together to help. So that's definitely not a problem at all. 5:30 board meetings, I won't miss one.
Next question, how would you view the board's responsibility in shaping district policy? And how would you collaborate with other board members to reach consensus?
How would you view the board responsibility in shaping district policies? And how would you collaborate with the board members to reach consensus? How do I view the board members' responsibility in shaping the district policies? I view it's the ultimate responsibility. That's why we're here. So I mean, I don't think there's any bigger responsibility that we have than to shape our district and make sure we're molding it into the impression of our community. There's a lot of things that here in Clovis we feel are needed in our area.
In policy area.
Yes. And as far as collaborating with the other board members to reach consensus, we're just gonna have to talk it out. We're gonna agree, we're gonna disagree, but there's no reason why we can't agree and disagree like friends. We have disagreements, we talk through them. It's not a big deal to have disagreements. There's no reason why anybody should get angry in a disagreement. I definitely don't get angry in a disagreement, and there's no reason anybody should. I mean, to think everybody's gonna agree on everything is just ridiculous. We're gonna have disagreements, but as long as there's that open line of communication where no one's getting offended, we can talk this out and work together.
Thank you.
Mine is pretty simple. I think that you pretty well much already addressed it, but we'll cover it anyway. It says, how would you work with the community, staff, family to make sure their voices are heard in our decision making?
I'll make myself available the most I can. It won't be hard to find me. Anytime we're having a sporting event, you're gonna see me cheering our teams on. So I mean, if you ever need to pull me aside and ask me a couple questions or, hey, why is this going on? If anyone ever needs a detailed explanation, that's why I'm here. I'm an absolute nerd for reading things and understanding things. So reading a boring board policy and transferring these to an easier understanding for our community is not a problem at all. And I'd be happy to allocate time for that. Anytime anybody needs it, I'm definitely gonna be available.
And the last one from us, if you were appointed to this position, this is kind of big throughout the whole state of New Mexico, not just Clovis. If you were appointed to this position, would you uphold the laws of New Mexico and the federal government as it relates to education?
Absolutely, 100% without question.
Mr. Chavez, you have a chance to ask us any questions if there's information you want to add about yourself or the reason you're interested. Now is your chance.
I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, I've pretty much said why I'm here. I think I've made it very, very clear my intentions moving forward and how I would love to work with y'all and ensuring everything's better for our community. I know a lot of us have been here. My father-in-law has mentioned you before, Mr. Martin. So I mean, like, I know a lot of us have been here. Family's been here a long time. Mr. Lopez, you're a wildcat. I know that. So excuse me, Mr. Cordova, you're a wildcat. I know that. I mean, yeah, I would love to work with you guys to move forward. There's nothing else I need to add.
Thank you.
So since you've already interviewed, you do not have to leave the room. Take your seat.
Thank you.
Or you can leave, whatever's your pleasure. Thank you.
Oh. Who was number two? I didn't check. Great.
Yes. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah. Actually, Mr. Chavez, after we interview all three, we're gonna just take a brief kind of break. I mean, we're not calling a recess or anything, so we can go through our notes and then we'll have you all three come back in at the same time. I'm sorry.
I step out?
Yes, sir, please. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Miss Margaret will, as per English, she brings. Will you take Mr. Chavez? Hello, right here?
Oh.
Right up front, okay.
Well, we think if it doesn't make you feel a little less nervous to just see the four of us.
Could we have her name?
Yes, in just a minute. Okay. So our next candidate is Rachel Haight. How do I say your?
Yes, Haight.
Okay, thank you very much for submitting your letter of interest, so
Mhm.
we are gonna go and we are gonna each ask a couple of questions if you need clarification or whatever, but we provided you a copy, so.
Thank you very
hopefully
much.
that will help. So the very first question I have is, do you certify that the responses you provided on the board candidate eligibility questionnaire are correct and true?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what motivates you to serve on the school board and what specific experiences or skills do you bring to the role? And be sure to include any experience if you've had serving on our campuses or district planning teams.
Okay, absolutely. So I think this is probably the most important question, right? And I'm going to try and speak up for our lovely people in the back. Oh, it's a microphone? Okay, great, perfect. So let's not talk about my tech skills, but I have been passionate about kids for a long time. I believe that our children are our most important investment, are our most important capital. The human capital, the human experience all starts with our children. So I've always been passionate about doing what I can to serve our community in that respect. I started out as a foster parent. I did go on to adopt as well. And I still kind of help around the community and donate to our foster agencies and stuff and work with them. I got started in child advocacy, actually in PTA. My background's in finance. So one of my son's friend's parents was joining the PTA, and I actually thought it was hilarious. Never pictured myself as a PTA mom. I thought it was all about baking cookies and fundraising and staying at home and getting my hair done. And I was just not that person. So when I got into it, though, I really started learning a lot of what was happening on the back end in schools and teachers and what they were needing and their pain points in our children and what they were seeing every day. And it changed the way that I interacted with my children. So if they came back and they had a horrible experience with something, I could now have, okay, well, what did you do? What resource, especially now that they're older and middle and high school, okay, this happened. What was your response? What resources were available to you? And that has really helped me grow on my journey. So I have been in PTA at the local county level because I'm from Florida a couple of years ago, and also at the state level. I started volunteering and I have been to state capitals in Florida. I've been to Washington, D.C. actually last summer, and this year I'll be going to Santa Fe to advocate for our children and meeting with our legislators. So I've done that a few times. I know Cecily Darden, I believe. Yeah, Cecily Darden, the family engagement coordinator at the Department of Education. So I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit excited now.
Yes.
I've
I
interviewed.
want you to be.
I haven't interviewed with an audience before, so.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I can get some applause or boos, whatever, you know. So with that, I've seen a lot behind the scenes on silly things in some respects, such as an example from Florida, not here, not any of our schools, but we had to fight an issue because our athletes weren't being given water. Like simple, silly stuff like that is really what motivated me to get involved. So locally, I'm in a couple of our Facebook groups. I started the Z Elementary Facebook group to connect parents from Z Elementary. That's where my kids are at. And I'm help out in the high school one as well, kind of chatting there every once in a while and support other parents. And I started the one for our early college program, supporting the parents and families in that respect as well. And I worked a lot with Ms. Wynn. She's amazing. If you guys haven't met her from our college program, absolutely wonderful person. Also within the community, I've partnered with Dr. Frederick from the high school on trying to get TSA to Curry County. So we've helped him find the funding and hoping that comes eventually, but supported school programs. I serve on our school's PAC. Any way that I can be involved. It did take me a while to get approved as a volunteer when I first joined here. I'm sure some people know all about that, but I volunteer pretty much anywhere that I can in our schools. Anything they need, the teachers just ask. And I think on the school board, I found out about the vacancy because I was actually trying to contact the member who had stepped down, and that curiosity is just making sure that we're building the community. And I really am passionate about family engagement. So that's my it's my volunteer history.
Very much.
Thank you. Okay, how would you describe the primary responsibilities of a school board member?
So From what I know, a school board member has to be nonpartisan and really uphold the law and balance the needs of the community, as well as put our children first and foremost. Are we using the funding to their best potential? Are we hiring teachers to the best of our ability and finding ways to solve issues that we're coming across? Because there's always going to be problems. The problems will change, the conversations will change, the hot topic and political climate of the day will change. But at the end of the day, as a school board, our job is our children, and making sure that our community is investing in them as best they can and holding our school district to the high standards that it has come to really be known for.
Thank you. How do you envision, let's see, this one's me, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
How do you envision building and maintaining positive, productive relationships with the superintendent, district administrators, and other staff while fulfilling your role as a school board member?
Excellent question. Then the first thing with any positive relationship is making sure that you're acknowledging who's talking to you, especially if people are coming to you about your children or their children. That is the most touchy subject that there is, right? And people are passionate, and that is amazing and wonderful. So the first part of building those relationships is making sure that you're listening, not just hearing what someone has said, but truly listening, understanding why that's causing someone pain, or why that's hurting the child, or why this is causing the child not to succeed, etc. So, or why we should change the lunch to not be chicken nuggets. I don't know, whatever the issue is. They may not seem like something that you want to talk about, but it's important to hear everyone, make sure everyone feels heard. So with that, I'm very experienced with leaders. I tend to manage up, so I'm very comfortable talking to district leaders, community leaders. As you guys know, I've met with several of the principals here. I'm very active and involved already, but it's really just that communication piece. Once you've heard and understand, then making sure that you empathize. Whether you agree or not, you can still demonstrate empathy and understanding with someone. And that's how we really come to a consensus. That's really how we come to compromise and support, is by making sure that we're heard and we're listening to each other and working through potential solutions. Especially with an administrator, there's budget constraints, there's time constraints, there's patience constraints. Everybody runs out of that as well, but making sure that you're meeting them where they're at and supporting them to the best of their abilities is the key to any board member, because you have a huge responsibility, both for personnel, fiduciary, all of these things that are coming together. And as long as you're being non-biased and having that conversation, then you're going to have a successful relationship with people, because you'll build that trust that everyone needs, that even if they know that if they don't agree with you, they can still talk to you about it. And maybe they can change your mind, or maybe you can show them maybe something they didn't know, but it's really building that trust in a relationship and being willing to communicate open and honestly.
Thank you.
You're the only smiling one, so I'm ready for your question.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. You guys are all just so taking notes. I'm loving it.
Well, okay. Rachel, board members need to attend regular monthly meetings at 5:30 p.m. and occasionally travel outside of Clovis for required training. How will you adjust your schedule if necessary to allow you to attend meetings and complete the annual training?
Fortunately, as I mentioned before, I work from home and I'm the manager of my team, so I can schedule myself whenever I need to be off.
Okay.
So work will not be an issue.
Okay, the next question. How do you view the board's responsibility in shaping district policy? And how would you collaborate with other board members to reach a consensus?
So I would be leaning a lot on your expertise. I have experience in policy and experience in working with legislators and leaders, but you guys are the experts on Clovis. I admit I've only been here 2 years, but our children are just as wonderful, if not more so, I'm going to say it that way, than all. So for shaping district policy, as I had mentioned before, everything changes. It always changes. And we are the arbiters of that change as the board. And I'm saying we in the hopes that I join you. But it's really, collaboration is just being open and honest, back to that regular decision, and being able to communicate with each other, respecting each other's differences, and embracing each other's areas of expertise. And really making sure that we're asking questions and understanding who we are, where we come from, our story, what motivates us, what drives us. And the more that we learn about each other, the stronger the relationship will be, and the easier it will be for us to change our school district as needed, as smoothly as we need to when the time comes, and support our children in the days that they are.
It's me. Okay. Getting down to the last of it, okay? How would you work with the community, staff, and families to make sure their voices are heard in our decision?
So for me, myself, I like to just talk to people. If you couldn't tell that from my interview, I love having conversations with people. And going back to that relationship I'm going to keep going back because that's my emphasis, was relationships, I think, are one of the most important pieces. And you can build that with a community. You can build that with staff. You absolutely can build that with families. You go to these events where they're at, you go to the community events, the family nights, and just talk to people. You don't have to talk as a school board member. You can, which I'm sure that as soon as they find out that's what you are, the conversation may shift a little bit. But making sure that those are taken seriously. If someone comes to you, and I know there are sunshine laws and things like that we can and can't discuss, but for the most part, anyone coming to you should feel safe. And I want to absolutely make sure that happens. But most importantly, I would be there. I go to as many events as I can. I already do, because I have a million children. It's only 5.
It feels like.
They do. They feel like a million. So we've got elementary, high school, and college. We'll have a middle schooler next year that's moving on. So I'm at half the events anyway. So what's a few more, right? But I like going there and being where they're at, and helping out any way that I can, and supporting our staff. I know at some of our district meetings and other committees, they talked about doing surveys. Absolutely love those. Especially if they're anonymous and people can tell you what they really think. Some people are more than happy to do so outside of anonymity. But
Big word.
I know, I went back to my Finding Nemo and said anonymity. But our children are our decision, right? So everybody needs to be heard. And that's the thing, is we bring all the information we have to the table. We may not agree on it, but we'll make the best decision with all the information that we have. And the more that we build that relationship and work with our community and staff, the better we will be able to support that decision, because we want their voices, we want their opinions, we want their facts, we want their experiences. Because when we learn about that, it'll help us make better decisions, to make it a better experience, to build that relationship. And as we build that relationship with our community, they will then turn and invest in our schools. I know we've had concerns with our graduates not staying here. We can change that. We can change that with policy by getting our families engaged. I just went to the Family Engagement Conference put on by NAFSCI in Denver. So many great resources. Like I said, I'm very involved anywhere that I can go and asking those questions. So I've got a lot of great resources from that as well, but bringing that back, sharing resources, and creating open forums for our community to meet and engage with us where we are at.
Okay. My last final question would be, if appointed to this position, will you uphold the laws of the state of New Mexico and the federal government as it relates to education?
Absolutely, yes.
So, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, if I may, what's it like to work with you guys behind the scenes?
He's no good.
Bad news.
He has
Bad
been
news.
smiling the whole time, so I
Well, secondly, we don't get that much chance, because you have
Right.
to avoid a quorum, so.
correct.
But it's a very cordial board and respectful to each other, and we do sometimes disagree about things, but everybody has a right to disagree, and
Right.
we just try to be respectful to each other, so.
And I agree
Anybody
with
else?
that. I agree with that. we got a balancing act that we got to deal with as board members.
Right.
Sometimes it look like we are in control when we're not in control. And what I'm talking about is government interference. And we do things that we may not necessarily like doing,
Right.
but we got another choice.
Right.
But that's why it's so important that we follow the written laws and guidelines and everything. And as you said, look out for the best interests of our most valuable resource,
Mhm.
and that is our kids.
Absolutely. I mean, you sold it right there. So I guess in partnership with that, what is the one piece of advice that you all would have for someone joining your team?
I would-
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman.
No, you go ahead first. Go first.
I think you have to be patient. You have to listen to people, hear them, like you said, earlier, and, just, help understand, what's going on, but, as far as the board, when you have a great board, it makes it a lot easier. Just listening to your district,
Right.
I would say, yeah, I was just gonna say, to be open-minded. So what it was for when I got on the board, because I got on the same way you're getting on. I filled the position, and when I got on, it was the board is different than what you perceive it is when you're sitting out there. There's restrictions to the things that we do. There's things that we can that we have control over, and there's things that we don't have control over. But the biggest thing is to stay sympathetic to the people that you're dealing with on both sides,
Mhm.
because you'll be dealing with administrators, you'll be dealing with kids, you'll be dealing with parents, and if you stay open-minded and, like you said, try and bring everybody to a resolution to whatever the problem is, to do the best that you can to communicate with everybody and make sure you're getting the information out that is helpful.
Right.
I think those are ultimately if you're doing that stuff, you're doing the best that you can as a board member.
On the trainings as a new board member, you have to have 10 hours. This is legislated, not our call, and in very specific areas. So, New Mexico School Board Association does its very best to prepare you for those roles and to let you know what are things that we can do and what are things that are not in our control. So that's also, a positive, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
I found it helpful.
Yep, I agree. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I'm 100%. I really believe empathy gets to the root of any pain point, and I'm a big communicator. As you guys have seen, I love talking. I love listening to people more than anything. I believe that we can work better, not necessarily harder, but we can work better, come together as a community, and be stronger and continue to make us Clovis proud. I'm very excited to the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Do I go back there? or-
Yeah, Ms. Snyderville's gonna.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just as quiet as I thought it'd be. Also hard to be last, it'd be hard to be first, hard to be last.
Okay.
This is our third and final candidate, Amy Egbert, that great pronunciation, yes. Amy. So we are, as you heard, gonna just ask you some questions and giving you a copy, so if you get nervous and forget what we said, so. The very first question I'm gonna ask you is that do you certify that the responses you provided on the board candidate eligibility questionnaire are correct and true?
Yes.
Thank you. And then the second one is what motivates you to serve on the school board and what specific experiences or skills do you bring to the role? And if you want to reference experiences you've had serving on a campus or district planning teams, volunteering in the school, that would be awesome.
Honestly, anything that can benefit our kids when it comes to being part of the policies, being part of the big picture, really getting involved with your community and hearing what your community members also want to see. On the board side of the house, I was part of the facility working group.
Mhm.
That was kind of interesting to be able to see that side of the house and everything that has to be pulled into question when making big decisions on whether it's improving or taking away from the footprint. So that was big. I do volunteer with the schools itself. Usually I used to be with band. I did not do much this year with band. I'm also part of the chamber board within the community. I'll start the executive board in January. That's kind of helped. When we moved here about 11 years ago, I got involved with the community pretty quickly, and I started off with health promotions. So that kind of was introduced me to different places within the area. But the motivation for the school board is really, how can I help? Because if you're not involved, you can't make changes, and you can't be a voice for others who maybe didn't want to be the voice.
Okay. My first question is, how would you describe the primary responsibilities of a school board member?
I think the primary responsibility would be to make sure you step back and you're looking at the big picture at all times. You need to make sure you receive all the information and understanding it. No quick judgments on things, because these are very serious matters when it comes to our kids. And it comes to our education of our kids and making our kids feel safe. And I think that's a big role. The very primary thing is that.
Thank you. Okay,
Oh, no, sorry.
I got one more.
Okay.
How do you envision building and maintaining positive, productive relationships with the superintendent, district administrators, and other staff while fulfilling your role as a board member?
The biggest thing is to be there, to be present, make sure the communication is always open. If there's a question, ask. If there's something that you don't understand, ask. If there's something that can be done better, sometimes that we get ourselves so close to the wall that we don't know if we took a step back, there's a door there, right? If there's something I can improve on, there's just something I can listen better to the community's needs to kind of help bring those to the board, just to make the best decisions for those kids. Communication is the key. And to the biggest part about communication, positive, always. These aren't personal, and we have to step back because our kids are very, very personal. And so when we're looking at some of these matters, we have to step back and answer it in a way that doesn't get us triggered, right? We know that we really, so if we do get to that point, we need to have that conversation. This is a very sensitive subject to me. I'm very passionate about this. And I think as long as that communication is open, it should always stay positive.
Thank you.
The board members need to attend regular monthly meetings at 5:30 p.m. Occasionally travel outside of Clovis for required training. How will you adjust your schedule if necessary to allow you to attend meetings and complete the annual trainings?
With the board schedule pretty much being laid out, and kind of know there may be a meeting or two, it looks like that might pop up out of town travel. As long as that communication is beforehand, it's the same communication with my role that I have for my daily job. To be able to have those communications with my supervisor. And you adjust and you go. Because it's responsibility. If I take this role and I'm responsible, I know that those expectations need to be met. And if they can't be met, then we need to have a discussion to maybe move forward.
How do you view the board's responsibility in shaping district policy? How would you collaborate with other board members to reach a consensus?
So I actually think the responsibility is very heavy. again, it's kids. They are our pride and joy. Safety is always the number one thing for them. So the responsibility, very heavy and very important role. But again, you have to step back and look at all angles. Part 2, let me look real quick. Keeping open communication with other board members. I think in any role in life, in order to keep the communication piece open, we all have different views. We need to be able to come to an agreement. We need to be able to look at it in the full picture. And if we can't, we need to be able to talk it through. Emotions to the side to make sure that we get the important policy piece on it.
Okay. The last 2.
Okay.
How would you work with the community, staff, and families to make sure their voices are heard in our decision?
Absolutely. I think the biggest piece is to find out where I can be most beneficial and seen to be able to have those conversations with community members. Where do we have it outside of the board? Because that is a question of mine. Are all the conversations here? Is there a great place to reach out? Is there email address that people can send things to? That would be a big question for the board members from me. Is what is the best way? How have you guys found success to be able to make sure that you are speaking for a district as a whole and the community as a whole?
Okay. And the last one is, if you are appointed to this position, would you uphold the laws of the state of New Mexico and the federal government as it relates to education?
Okay, so you said, one of your questions is what is the best way to communicate with?
Yeah, so yes, because I think it's very important that when we're sitting in a position like this, we're not speaking for ourselves only, we're speaking for a group of individuals.
Yes.
And what is the best way, or you guys found successful to make sure you're hearing the voices of the individuals that you sit up here and represent?
Go first.
Yes, I think the best way is to be present in the community because, different people communicate in different ways. So you talked about email. We all have email addresses and we occasionally get emails. I tend to get more emails from staff or maybe a teacher or something like that than I do community members.
Okay.
Most of the community members that I get approached by would be like at a, some kind of social event typically is where that happens, a football game, a basketball game, a band, band concert, maybe even just somewhere out in the community, like at a grocery store. But the biggest thing for me is just to be present out in the community and be, my wife calls it having your open sign on. She says I always have my open sign on. She gets mad at me sometimes. She wants me to turn it off so that, we're not, people aren't coming up and communicating with you all the time, but you gotta have your open sign on if you do what we do. So that's my best answer.
For me, email, I get quite a few emails from, about concerns or policies, or I do meet sometimes with parents with administration present because, we are only important or a decision maker as a body. Whatever I think outside that is just what I think outside that. I don't represent the board. So was a hard thing to kind of get a grip on, is that I can take in information and I can share it, but at the end of the day, we are only effective when we are together as a body.
Together.
So, but emails, just like Sean said, grocery store, Walmart, Lord have mercy, Walmart. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's emails. My wife's a teacher, so I have, I'm easy to find, so they know who I am, and just responding. It might take a day or two, but respond if somebody emails you. Respond, ask what, find out what their needs are, listen to them, and get them the answer, whether what they want to hear or not. But be open and be able to just talk and passionate about you. Just
I don't know. In all honesty, we as public, okay, officials, we have to be careful of what we say. Number one, there's a law that says open meetings mean everything that we do. We got to not what they call a rolling quorum. I can't call each one of the board members and say, what do you think? What do you think? So therefore, we're kind of limited into what we can do when we come together. One of the things that you would learn in Santa Fe is this is, as Chairman Osborne said, is that one person does not make the decision for the whole board. Your primary would be the people in your district. That's who your number one. And you got to hear them and you got to express their feeling and their voice. We don't agree with everything, and it's okay not to agree, but we got to stand united as a community. And that's what we don't want to see is division within the community. There's a lot of things that we have to do. I personally don't like, but we have to do that because that's what the state law says. We're dictated by federal government and the state law. I heard that they say, well, y'all can do what you want to do. That's not true. One of our school districts got removed because they didn't do what the state secretary said to do. And you can't help your constituents if you get removed. So it's very important that we attend our trainings because that's where they primarily review the new changes in the law, and they change every year. That kind of more or less helps us with our responsibility as board members. But I like what you said earlier. This is our community. Our number one commodity is our children and how they can continue with their education. We're here to give them the best education we can from K through 6. I don't mean to be preaching like that, but that's pretty well much what it is. So to answer your question, you have to learn as you go. And that's why the state requires us to do mandatory education to update on new laws and changes and everything. Yes, we as a board have some input to say, hey, we don't agree with you, state. We can append, but when it gets down to it, we have to act as a board and move forward as a community. I hope I didn't say too much.
That was good. That was perfect. That was my biggest question, just to ensure that if I sit and I'm able to be elected for the position or appointed, that I'm able to really reach out to the community and bring in their needs. That's the biggest part.
Makes sense.
It's not about us.
Correct.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are gonna, it's not an official recess, we're just gonna take a minute and mull over our information in our own seats so that we be prepared to make decisions.
Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Thank you for your allowing us a break. I just want to personally thank our three candidates for going through this process with us and for your interest in our children and our district. It's certainly not going to be an easy choice. So everybody, congratulations, you did a great job. So have you. So typically, we begin a process of kind of elimination. It's a little bit painful sometimes.
Yeah.
Right, it was with Mr. Hamilton, but anyway, so I would certainly entertain a motion for a candidate to replace Mrs. Epps.
You want me to start?
Sure.
So when when I went through all three and listening to all three, starting with Mr. Chavez, I think for me, his benefits are that he's a small business owner. I think that brings an element that we could always use. And I think that him being from Clovis, his roots are here. I think that's another thing that's a positive for him. So those were the two things that stood out for me for Mr. Chavez. As far as Rachel goes, Mrs. Haight. Yes. Okay. She has kids in our district and she volunteers in the schools. She's got involved in a lot of different things. So she has a good working knowledge of what's going on in our schools and it seems like in our community as well. Seems like she's got a good head on her shoulders. So to me, those were your positives. And then we've got Mrs. Egbert, right? And when I read through her stuff, she's got a strong connection to the base. Works out at the base right now. She's also got a connection to our community and what she does with the chamber. Also, very community minded, and she seems like a good head on her shoulders. Kind of understands that it's all about the community and connecting with people and everything. So when I look at all three of them, for me, the one that stands out the most probably, and it's a close race, but Mrs. Egbert's probably the top in all of what she brings to the table.
Mr. Cordova, Mr. Martin, any comments?
Well, again, thanks. Where do I start? Mr. Chavez, I really enjoyed your interview, your enthusiasm, being here from Clovis, being out there at the softball parks and everything that you do. I kind of liked your spirit that you have, that kind of stood out to me, and again, we have Rachel, who, a mother and has kids, like Sean said, in the district, has interest in our district. So, and volunteers for, man, I mean, what don't you volunteer for? And then, Amy, again, the military connection, we had in the past, not necessarily now, but it's kind of it hasn't really been as strong. I feel like it should. And being a military mom, I know you've had to do military family sacrifices. Your kids going in places, and so it's hard. I mean, you've got three great candidates here, but I really do like the ties from, the base.
Mr. Martin?
And honestly, this is one of the hardest
It is,
Things that
it is
we-
hard.
we can do, and this is not my first time going through this. So we have done appointments in the past. I don't feel that we can go wrong with either one of the three. Evidently, we just gotta be able to pick one.
Yes, evidently.
I mean,
That's a true story.
they all great. I guess we could put all of them into one great big one. We'll be right on the money.
Yep, maybe we could just draw a number again.
But, and I really do like the, connection to the candle. Because I think that those young men out there is serving our community and everything. And the more that we can get integrated out there, we have a great, Sarah does a great job in coming down and doing everything and working with us. But, it would sure be nice to have somebody to represent them from out there, as well as the community. Now, she won't be representing Canada, but the community itself. So if I had to, based on that, I would think Amy.
Well, I just want to thank you all again too. And Herman, I appreciate your passion and the connection to athletics. As you know, in Clovis, that is always very important. And so I think that's certainly worth mentioning as we're attempting to build those kinds of programs, because that gives our kids engagement and a tie to what we're doing. Rachel was next. My word, your involvement is outstanding and really amazing. And I appreciated so much your positive, optimistic point of view about if somebody brings a problem, we need to work together to solve it, and, speaking positively. And so that was very powerful to me. The thing I appreciated about Amy was her big picture thinking. And when you said we can't get so caught up in the details that we push ourselves against a wall because there's always a door. And that's a pretty good description of a board member, in my opinion, is that sometimes we forget about that big picture, and that you did participate with the facilities developing that plan. So that's a really good opportunity to see, what it's kind of like being a board member. So. All right. Have a motion?
This is an action moment.
Yes, sir. It's an action item.
Madam Chair, I recommend that we appointed Amy Edward.
Do I have a second?
Go ahead.
I'll second.
This will be, Ms. Gina, this will be a roll call vote, please.
President Osborne,
Yes.
Secretary Cordova,
Yes.
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Martin,
Yes.
All right, Amy Egbert, you are the new board member replacing Sharon Epps. But I encourage the rest of you, the other two, to please. At the next board meeting, you will be sworn in, and then we'll redo the officers. So you're still a community member tonight. Okay. Consent agenda. Anybody have questions or concerns?
I have no questions.
I have none.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Action item. Yes.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. Martin,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Cordova, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda passes. Next, we have the superintendent's report, Ms. Russ.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we'll start with Ms. Sarah Williams, who'll give our Canon update. Who'll let us know that we have a Canon representative as a board member.
Good evening, board members, president, superintendent. You guys always make me follow something that's always so big. So I
Sorry.
feel like I don't know how I can beat any of that, but congratulations to all the nominees. Congratulations to Amy. So the only things I really have to share is this amazing shake has been absolutely amazing. I'm getting a request from schools almost weekly. So we have a lot of airmen going out into the schools and being involved in that. And we appreciate you allowing us to do that. It's definitely, they're coming back and talking about how great it is.
So it's definitely an impact for them. And then today, the first sergeants and I were able to collaborate together, and we were able to bring 10 turkeys to Yucca Middle School to help with our families in need. So we appreciate letting them, or allowing us to be involved in that and helping out the families in our community, because it's extremely important to make sure we take care of our families. And just keep the volunteer requests coming. We love it. We're loving the involvement and being out there. We're getting ready to do, look at some dates for Tudos in the spring. So we're getting ready for that. And then before you know it, we'll be turning purple again for Month of Military Child. And we know you guys do a great job with that. So we appreciate it. And thank you for letting me speak.
You know, so we've never changed our lights from purple from last.
I know, I
summer.
see it every time I go by, I'm like, oh, it looks so good.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Okay, my second item, we typically have our high school students, but they had another engagement tonight. Imagine that.
Always look forward to them.
Yes, but we are going to highlight our students that typically under my section, we almost always have a student group that we're honoring accomplishments. We're going to go about that a little bit differently tonight with a couple of videos. They're brief. The first one last week was World Kindness Week, and we had several students from all around the district collaborate to make a video about what kindness means to them. And then the second video, I'll just have Brandon roll right into that. We've talked a lot at our board meetings about the youth athletic program with our partnership with the city, when we've brought lots of updates to you, but we had a video put together that's going to give you some insight from parents' perspective and from the coaches' perspective. And we really wanted to bring that tonight in light of what's just gone on in our community with our youth. And I just want to take a minute to celebrate our CMS educators, because the truth is that in this community, those are the people who are doing the mission work, because we have all of the students represented from our community, and our educators love them and are working hard to get them engaged and give them something to belong to. And I think you're going to really have that magnified when you see people talking about why we're doing that and what it's already accomplishing. And I heard Mr. Brady telling you that for the volleyball that's going on right now, we have 500 kids who are participating in that. And so for the second sport, you know, we're just having that engagement, and it's connected to, you got to be attending school and you got to be focusing on your schoolwork. Plus we're building your skills so that we can grow our programs and align it K through 12. And so that's what these two videos are. So just enjoy watching our kids, and let's celebrate our kids.
Yeah.
I can see it here.
My name is Kimmy Green. I attend CHSFA, and kindness to me is showing love and respect and caring for others. Hi, my name is Victor. I attend James Bickley, and to me, you help everyone you see, that no more wars or fights, and everybody will be friendly and happy. What kindness means to me in Hawaii is being respectful, doing little things for others, and being compassionate.
It's kindness to me. Kindness to me is helping someone.
My name is Hartley, and kindness means to me making someone smile.
I'm Sienna, and kindness to me means being nice to others.
My name is Zoe, and kindness to me is talking to someone when they don't have anyone to talk to.
I'm Ashanti, and kindness to me is showing compassion to other people.
I'm Emily, and to me, kindness means treating others with empathy. My name is Jaya, and to me, kindness means to do a simple act that can brighten someone's day. My name is Imani, and kindness means to me by being friendly, generous, and considerate to other people.
My name is Bella, and kindness to me is being considerate towards others.
And kindness means for me giving someone a compliment.
And kindness to me means being friendly and showing consideration.
My name is Braylon, and kindness to me means being helpful to others.
My name is Andrew, and kindness to me is trying to make other people's day.
Kindness to me is active generosity.
My name is Maya, and kindness to me is being nice and helping.
I'm Kiana, and kindness to me is being helpful.
My name is Chase. What kindness means to me is being nice to others.
My name is Norm. Kindness in gratitude in school looks like being nice to the staff and the students.
Marshall, 6th grade academy. An example of kindness to me is helping someone when they need help.
Hi, I'm Abby from Anchor for Life, and one example of kindness for me is helping someone when they need help, caring for them no matter what.
I'm Reese for Anchor for Life. The example of kindness to me is respecting people of all ages, genders, and races.
Always be kind. You never know what somebody's going through.
Be kind.
Several years ago, we lost the community youth program, and we've seen a steady decline in the readiness level of the kids, and we've lost some of that competitive, or actually a lot of that competitive edge with our students as they come into organized sports.
Well, when Mrs. Brady talked to me about starting this program, I knew that it was going to have a big impact on our community.
So as far as all the sports we have right now, so we're involved in flag football, then we're gonna go into co-ed, volleyball, flag football is co-ed as well. And then we'll go to girls and boys basketball, and then we'll conclude the year with track. And then also in the summer, we're already working on some arts programs. Next year, we also plan on incorporating in soccer as well.
So we're trying to build a family. We're not just trying to develop a football program. And so for kids that join the youth program at such an early age, allows them to grow with that Wildcat spirit.
So I think that's huge that people have an opportunity. I saw really good things out of the 6th grade academy, so I'm super excited about the lower kids. They even found some curriculum for kindergartners, which is crazy when you think about kindergartners being able to play volleyball.
What I really think is great is that our players who are at the high school get to coach the kids, and they get to meet the kids, and so the little kids grow up to have something to look forward to. These are their heroes.
I will promote this, yes, I will promote this a lot. Yes, definitely for the kids, you know what I'm saying? To get the kids to know that it's better out here than other things, you know?
Well, I think there's a couple of things it's helping the community with. One, the participation aspect of it, having a lot of kids being able to participate in sports. But then two, being able to do it for free.
From the beginning, the district and the city, as we planned this league, wanted to make this free of charge, and thankfully we were able to come up with a way to do that.
You know, I don't think we've honestly played in a league that we didn't have to pay for. So it's amazing that he can get this for an extended period of time. That's not too much cost, you know.
There's not many places that are offering things like that as free, but like, it just gives everybody equal opportunity.
So now we have a free program that's being sponsored by the school district. And so now kids from all economic abilities now can all play the game. And so it gives up every kid a chance in our community to be a part of something special.
They all get to play, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, you just get to get on the field or the court and have opportunity to play, regardless of social, economic situation.
And these programs in general, they teach you more than just athletics and how to be athlete. You know, it teaches you hard work, dedication, you know, accountability. Having those things instilled in you will help you be more suited for life and for things outside of these walls as far as the schools.
We compete with class. We expect excellence, but we expect sportsmanship. We want a positive attitude. We want kids to understand what it takes to participate in that sisterhood and that brotherhood that's developed when they're playing. It's not just about the win, but it's about the commitment to something larger than yourself.
The kids are learning those qualities of what it means to be a Wildcat and what it truly means to be a Wildcat. What we expect as a school district and an athletic program in general.
And along the lines of kids having fun, that's where you start implementing the discipline, the integrity, and you start building that relationship with kids so that they want to come back and do better each and every day.
Pretty much it just builds relationships outside of school. Once these kids create like a bond that's not just with education, it builds good sportsmanship, just pretty much just good relationships amongst the students and then meeting other kids from other schools as well.
Hopefully the parents will realize the benefits of sports in general. I think it's so important for kids to be able to get out and interact with other kids and do it in an athletic environment.
They have an opportunity to play on Saturdays in this community with our high school kids. facilitating that and helping and giving back to Clovis, which I think is absolutely a game changer.
We're working with our young people at the high school level to be those role models. When we say that we want character development, that we want our kids to grow up through our program and want to be a part of this Wildcat tradition.
We're gonna keep getting better as this thing grows, and just understand, if we wanna sustain this for years to come, that it's gonna take all hands on deck. Like I said, it just takes a village, and we can do it.
And man, I'm gonna tell you something, there's nothing better than being a Wildcat in Clovis, New Mexico. Come and join us.
Go Cats.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay. Next, we have instructional matters. Ms. Snagerville.
Good evening, President Osborne, members of the board, and Superintendent Russ.
Feedback.
Can you get my presentation up, Brandon? Thanks. So this evening, I'd like to share with you some information about the recently released New Mexico Vistas site designations. Can you go to slide 2? So as you can see, we had the opportunity to celebrate with our principals the achievement of all of our schools being identified this past year as either traditional or spotlight for the 23-24 school year. You may notice in that list of schools that our freshman academy is not included, and that is because the state made the decision last year to combine freshman academy results into the high school into which they feed for the 4 standalone freshman academies that exist in the state. So this table shows a breakdown of the 100 possible points that a school can earn in various indicators that include academic proficiency and growth, progress of our English learners, attendance, graduation rate, and then college and career readiness opportunities for students. You'll notice that the points possible can vary depending on the grade levels that any school serves. And so the K2 column is for schools that only serve K2. So we don't have any sites that fall into that category. The EM column provides the points for both elementary and middle schools. And then the points for the high school are on the next column over to the right. So the state did make several changes in the way they calculate scores for schools from the 22-23 school year to last year. One of the significant changes came in the points that a school could earn towards student proficiency. In the past, a student either scored the minimum proficiency score on the NMSA or they did not. And so a student who scored proficient or advanced would earn 1 full point of a value toward the proficiency formula, and a student who scored nearing proficient or beginning step earned no points toward that proficiency formula. And for last year's calculation, this was changed. Students can now earn partial points of a 0.5 for a score of nearing proficiency. And then students who are scoring advanced can earn 1.25 towards that proficiency formula. And so we believe that this is a more accurate representation of improvements that students are making in annual assessments, whether they've already surpassed proficiency or they're working towards proficiency. Another change in the formula was the measurement of student growth. And so in the past, this was just a raw growth measurement in which the previous year's proficiency for a student was subtracted from this year's growth, but that came really close to duplicating the proficiency measure itself. And so the state looked to find a way to measure what they call an SGP, or a student growth percentile. And that has a student being compared to his or her peers across the state who have a similar test history. So their performance can then be ranked with a percentile score. And so that just ensures that for every school, there is a very separate score that they receive for growth from the percentage of students who are proficient. So once every school is assigned a point total between 0 and 100 based upon all of the indicators that I mentioned previously, the state then puts all of those schools in order by point total to see how the schools compare to one another. And so this graphic is just a very basic way to visualize how schools compare to one another and then how they're assigned different designations based upon that information. So as you'll see the green section at the top, the highest 25% of schools across the state are identified as spotlight schools. And then you'll notice that traditional schools aren't divided by a specific boundary because the schools that are identified as traditional are those that don't fit into any of the other categories that are mentioned here. So the state identifies the top 25% and then it calculates any of the other potential designations before identifying the remaining schools in the traditional support category. So when you look to the bottom of that graphic, you'll see that there's a comprehensive support and improvement school, or we refer to those as CSI schools. Those are the schools that fall in the lowest 5% of schools' scores across the state. Or if there's a high school with an average four-year graduation rate across 2 of the last 3 years, below 66.67%. And then any school who remains in that CSI status for 3 years, they just kind of cascade into what's known as MRI status, which stands for more rigorous interventions. And so that details the very top of that list and then the bottom. In the middle, we come across what's known as TSI schools. These are targeted support and targeted support and improvement schools. These are schools that have a student group performing in the lowest 5th percentile over the last 3 years. So we're looking for a history of performance. And so the CSI schools were determined based upon the overall school score. TSI schools are determined based upon the performance of a subgroup. So there's the primary difference there. If a school falls into the lowest 5th percentile to qualify for a TSI school, and that cutoff is below the 5% of a CSI school, it's now identified as an ATSI school. Lots and lots of formulas in play there, lots of designation. But Brandon, if we can go to the next slide, this lays out all of that information. I'm not going to go through this table bit by bit. But one of the few things worth mentioning, in the past, the state had what was called a designation of excellence. That's no longer a category. That used to identify the top 10% of schools in the state. And it's also worth noting that while schools can exit ATSI or CSI status every year based upon their performance, they will only identify new schools every 3 years. So the next time we would expect to see any change in designation for any of our schools would be the 26-27 school year. That is one of the ways that the state can ensure that the financial supports, the technical supports that they're providing to help schools in the ATSI or CSI designation, they have time to really maintain that positive effect without the impact of maybe going in and out of designation every year. So kind of stabilizes the work that they're doing for a few years. So these next few slides are really just a different type of visualization of the same information. So most people are familiar with a bell curve, and that's where we see the majority of a data set that falls midway in a set of scores. And so if this bell curve represents all of the schools in New Mexico, then this line represents the lowest 5% of schools. Those are the schools that are going to be identified as CSI. And then that same process is reproduced for every single student group. So students with disabilities and all of the data that feed into that are figured separately from the English learners, from the economically disadvantaged students. So in addition to the bell curve for all of the schools, there's a bell curve for every student group that a school could be identified for. And so then there is a line drawn for the lowest 5% of those student groups, which would designate a TSI school. And for any of those subgroups that are falling below the 5% for the school cutoff, those scores become ATSI designations.
And who at PED does these calculations?
Would you like names? Because I know them by name. I've had so many conversations with them.
I'm just like curious about the agency.
It's area. It's the research, and they've reorganized up there recently, but it's research, assessment.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Accountability.
Yes. Yeah. So I just want to take a second to circle back to our list of schools. This graphic actually has some green check marks next to the schools who have actually come out of designation up to traditional status. And we really just want to take a minute to congratulate all of our schools. We want to acknowledge all of the hard work of our teachers, of our staff, and of our students in making this a reality. And we really want to extend an extra congratulations to those 5 schools who have exited designation based upon the data from last year. And so we had the opportunity to celebrate with them, and we're very excited to continue the work that they're doing. And I am happy to stand for any questions that you have about any of that.
So do we think this indicates a recovery from COVID? The beginning of our recovery from?
You know, we are starting to see our schools be able to implement some stronger systems because they are seeing a little bit more stability in the work that's happening in their classrooms, both with the staffing improvement that we're seeing and the improvement that we're seeing in attendance that Ms. Westbrook is going to share here in a minute. And so we do see this as a start of a positive trajectory. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I mean, congratulations to every school.
Yep.
It really is when you think about all the different factors that play into that and the different ways that you could fall into one of those statuses that we don't have any of them right now. And the ones that we did have come up. And then we've got 3 schools in spotlight,
yes,
which would be at the top 5%.
And we're 70% almost below the poverty line as a community. So that speaks volumes.
Yeah. Good job.
And leadership.
Congratulations to our schools. Yes, thank you. So next, I'd like to have Ms. Westbrook and Mr. Baker come up to visit with you briefly about attendance and advanced meals.
Superintendent Russ, President Osborne, members of the board, thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time. I wanted Mr. Baker to come up this evening. He's our new executive coordinator in our office, and he's a very critical team member and very active in all of the things I'm about to share. So I wanted to make sure that he was recognized for his work in all the things I'm about to tell you. Even attendance, because he was attendance last year. But I wanted to let you know the final report for our district-wide chronic absenteeism for the 23-24 school year actually showed a rate of 36%, reflecting an 8-point decrease from the previous year. And initially, when we came to report it to you, we reported it as a 6% decrease. So actually, we had more of a decrease at 8%. And then the graph that you're looking at here, so additionally, I have included a comparison of the first 40 days from the 23-24 school year against the current 40-day of the 24-25 school year. And as you can see, we have observed a promising 6% drop in chronic absenteeism from one 40-day period to the next. So we just continue to work on chronic absenteeism district-wide.
Thank you.
And so I'm also pleased to share that the Student Nutrition Department has successfully secured a grant and in partnership with Mr. Baker, allowing us to provide advanced meals for students during the Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring break holidays this school year. This Wednesday, we will distribute meal packages to 900 students in total. We will provide 4,500 breakfast and 4,500 lunches, ensuring that students in our community have access to nutritious meals during the holiday season. He encourages me to all these grants. So we will be serving our Thanksgiving meal on Thursday, November 21st. If you have time, we would like to invite you to stop by a school to partake in the holiday meal. If you do plan to attend, please just let one of us know, and then we'll add your names to the count at the schools, because the numbers get up there. So we would like you to attend. If you'd like, let us know. And then last, I am so pleased to share that our new food trailer has been successfully built and delivered. And so, thanks to Mr. Baker's work with me on that as well. We are now in the process of completing all the necessary inspections with the New Mexico Health Department, the New Mexico Fire Marshal's Office. And then once these inspections are finalized, we will be cleared to begin using the trailer to better serve our students and our community.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We stand for any questions.
Ms. Westford, didn't you find the fee to cover the food trailer?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. So we went to a training for the National School Lunch Program. You have to go every year. And we were contemplating how are we going to provide advanced meals. Through COVID, there were some reasons that we could. And then when our Walmart burned down, we found that they had limited access to food. And so we didn't have anything else. And we go to the training, and the early childhood education department was talking about meals on break. And it was a grant that we could write. So we rushed back, and with Mr. Baker's encouragement, and his help, we finished the grant and we submit it, and Mr. Baker reaches out to the gentleman who is running the program, and he said, did we receive the funding? He said, well, you know, that pot of money is for the whole state of New Mexico. So what did he say? You might get Thanksgiving and maybe Christmas. And so Mr. Baker and I spoke, and I said, we're going to send it in for everything, because maybe nobody else applies. So he gets an email back, and it covered Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring break.
Wow.
And so I'm working in my office, and Mr. Baker, because he's a numbers guy, he comes back in and he said, because he comes back into my office and he said, you realize that you just made enough to cover the food trailer. And I said, no, I didn't realize that, but he's always working the numbers. I said, I just wanted to feed kids. But when you just want to feed kids, when you just want to take care of kids, good things like that happen.
It's
So,
true.
stand for any questions.
Congratulations. Keep up the great
Tell
work.
us what you're gonna do with the food truck again, like what locations and where it's gonna be utilized?
Well, it's gonna be a mobile food station, basically.
Right.
Based out of our high school. That we can have another opportunity to serve our students there. Because there are a large amount of students at the high school, so.
Right.
Sometimes it's a little hard to get in and out of the cafeteria, so, and then we can have other food options there as well for our students. It'll also be allowed for usage of the school culinary classes as a mobile lab, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then one of the biggest things too is we have many organizations in our district that have to go pay for food out of town or different places. So they'll be able to rent this for a small fee and take it to feed their students, which will be easy to do rather than going to a big restaurant and spending a lot of money. So, and they'll be able to do it at cost. So they'll be able to get all the food from us and be able to feed the students.
Right on.
So no more soggy sandwiches.
Yes.
It'll be hot, fresh food. We're excited.
Yes,
And so it's just a better way to serve kids.
they'll be excited too.
Yeah, they will.
Fresh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Police Services, Mr. Strickland.
President Osborne, members of the board, I have the employee services report, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things. We did have a hiring fair last week, and we were able to hire 16 people, which is really good for this time of year. And our SPED number there, if you notice on the teacher and the support EA positions for SPED, is still high. We were able to secure a RFP piggyback with another district and work with a group called Proximity. And so we're in the process of hiring on 4 to 5 virtual SPED teachers that will work with a substitute that's going to be actually in the physical classroom with the kids. And then in addition, we've been talking with our attorney and we're in the final stages of looking at a contract to work with H-1B visa student or teachers that come from other parts of the country. And the purpose of H-1B is when you're unable to find American citizens that can do this job. And obviously we've had these numbers for quite a long time. We can reach out to other countries that have certified people ready to go to help with our special ed needs. So that's something that we're working on too. And there is a possibility that we could make a significant dent in that number through those two programs. So I'm excited about that. To stand for any other questions you might have.
I think we've done that before, haven't we?
We've never done an H-1B visa. We've done the J-1 cultural exchange, which has been fantastic in the past. But an H-1B is a little bit different. When in the past, our attorneys have cautioned us against it, but the purpose of the H-1B is for these really critical positions that we aren't able to fill with our American citizens that are ready to go. So.
And we haven't done that with the SPED program yet.
We have not. We've had some J-1 visa teachers that were super successful with our SPED population in the past, but those are short term. 3 years to 5 years, and then they have to go back to their own country for at least a year.
Gotcha.
Well, I applaud you for doing whatever our students with disabilities need teachers.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
We're gonna make a dent in that.
I know. Thank you. Okay, open forum. Remind you again, a 3-minute limit and no disparaging comments about staff or individual students. Who's first, Ms. Stu?
Carolyn Spence, speaking on bathroom equipment.
Hi, thank you very much for letting us come and talk. I'm not going to talk very long at all. And I might just skip the first item because it's something that I think I can take more to the state level rather than deal with you. And I've noticed several times tonight that you keep referring to needing to deal with state law and state law is guiding you. And I know that that has come up whenever, you know, the community for some reason or another has had something that they were unhappy with. And yet, you know, you feel constrained, you know, essentially by state law. And I don't know for sure the position that I'm going to ask about right now. I don't have necessarily all the details, but it is a great concern. And I understand that in your elementary school libraries and things, you have books that are sexually explicit, even leading into sexual perversion. There are things that are dealt with there that are probably not necessarily what we would as parents, for instance, and grandparents consider that is appropriate for a specific age level. Our kids are really trusting their parents. Kids trust their teachers. We really want them to trust them. And if they are put into an environment where they're introduced to things at the wrong age, particularly just even from what's in a library that shouldn't be there. I don't think the state mandates that you have to have those things there. I think that's something that you can consider. But even at that, it isn't really just the state law. The state law, and I don't know if federal law has it, but the state law has laws against introducing sexually explicit materials to underage people. I mean, that we are very familiar with that. I work in property management. We're having to be aware all the time of people who have violated those particular laws and have a label. Therefore, they have to be careful where they rent, et cetera, like this. And therefore, those laws are in effect. And if they haven't been applied to the schools, they might be in the future, because there's got to be a way to deal with this so that the things that shouldn't be there for children are not going to be there. And if you won't have the ability to take a look at that and consider it, there are other laws that might be able to be brought, both, you know, with liability for the injury that can be happening to a child, to a family, and or just the criminal intent that shouldn't be there. You had an incident that was a sexually perverse one in Texaco recently, I understand. And I understand that may or may not have had a criminal application, but some of those criminal applications might be needing to be made as it applies to the school. I'm really sorry that it doesn't sound very kind, but I think it's unkind to the children to subject them to things that they shouldn't be. And that's my opinion. Thank you.
Your comment here. Who's next, Gina?
Joseph Sandoval.
Hello, my name is Joseph Sandoval, and I am a student at Clovis High School. I'm also a football player there. I appreciate the opportunity to come and share what's on my heart. I don't hate anybody, some will understand and some won't. But the devil comes to whisper in the ears of God's people. And he is trying to get every opportunity he can to lead them into the darkness. And he's going into the hearts and minds of many lost transgenders, and is also using all of you to continue to lead them down that dark path by allowing them to be comfortable in their ways. So I'm asking all of you to take off the blindfolds from your eyes to truly see what's taking place in our schools. Is it that you are all that selfish, or do you truly not care? Is it their words over ours, or is it a way for you to not have to deal with the problem at all? So you guys allow it. I am at school to learn and get an education, and that should be my main focus. I don't even use the restroom at school to avoid feeling angry or uncomfortable. My heart is breaking daily, having to see the negative transformations that has taken place in our schools and trying to figure out what I can do to help. It should not fall on the hands of the students that seem to care more than all of you. This should be your job. I don't know what you guys think or feel in your heart, but I know God knows. Every single one of you guys are going to stand before God and be judged based on what you do on this earth. And I hope you guys help and make the right decision about this policy and choose God and seek the truth. Thank you.
C. Daniel Otero.
Madam President, board members, I'm requesting that each of the school board members, as well as the superintendent Russ, provide individual responses to the following questions, which I have transcribed from a YouTube community post. The context, I encourage you to watch for context, the video yourself so you can see what it is. It's titled, Under Investigation Exposes School Board Association Presidents Do Not Have Rights. Parents do not have right in school. I am a concerned member of Clovis community. I, along with others, seek to understand your position on these matters to better assess your values and your priorities. This insight will guide our efforts to either support and re-elect you or advocate for new leadership that upholds American and community values. Our aim is to ensure the provision of true education, focusing on reading, writing, arithmetic in a safe and supporting environment. I'm deeply concerned that this training that the members in New Mexico of school boards seem to provide school board members with strategies that, they can slow down just a second, strategies that could be perceived as methods to intimidate both students and their parents, as well as potentially sway future elections, which was mentioned in training presented on December 1st through the 3rd at in year 2022. It's really crazy that our environment is a Christian worldview, our community, and aligned with principles of the Constitution. This training, to me, that's why I'd like you to look at it and make your own discussions or teach us, said that you lose your rights. One of the statements that this educator gave members like you in New Mexico was parents' rights end when you decide to send your kids to public school. I would really encourage anyone listening to watch this video and talk to you guys about where you stand on these matters. so that we can better understand your heart and what's going on. My question in hearing tonight, and I'm so thankful for your service, is the Constitution trumping state law? Because our Attorney General just this week, from my understanding, said we're going to fight Trump's policies. That's federal. So if that's happening, there is lines in the sand, and I hope you stand up for our kids. Thank you for listening.
Farrell DeFore,
I'm Pastor Farrell DeFore. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you today. I know that there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things brewing in our country right now, but people can live within the confines of reality or not. But the rest of us should not have to live in their disillusionment, as well as pay for it with our tax-funded dollars, regardless what the state or federal people say. I spoke to numerous school systems across the state after I've contacted some of you, and many of those school systems said they will not proceed on with the Title IX policies of restrooms and having transgenders go into women's restrooms. And so they said they would not comply. You know what that would do if a large school system like this would stand up and say, hey, we've had enough, we're not going to follow this, and we would be able to support those other smaller school systems. I think we can make a tremendous impact in our state. You know, they can take away the boards, but if they're going to take those boards away in Floyd, let them come after this one and let them come after that one. And we got to stand, we got to hold the line. Somebody has to hold the line somewhere. There's strength in numbers. And I know that the cost of this is going to be astronomical, but it's not only going to stop with the school systems. It's going to go to the city buildings. It's going to go to the state buildings, and we're all going to have to suffer, and we're all going to have to pay great multitudes of dollars just to take care of this insanity. Nancy Mace, a congresswoman out of Florida, has just signing a bill to be presented to Congress to stop transgenders from coming into women's restrooms. I think somebody needs to stand up. I think somebody needs to toe the line. I think somebody needs to hold the line. It's sad when a citizen in our city is being threatened by attorneys just for asking questions. Board, I would ask that you reconsider. I would ask that you think about the policy. I would ask that you stand and hold the line, toe the line, and let's fight for what is right. Let's just don't capitulate, and let's just don't give in. Regardless what state law says, regardless what Fed says, let's hold the line and let's make a stand and let's fight. It's going to cost us something? Sure. It might cost you your position? Sure. But at least we didn't sit back and do absolutely nothing. Thank you very much for your time.
Haley Drake,
I sat there during the interview process and I listened to need to work with the community, listen to the community, understand the community, be sympathetic. But what I got when I asked a question was a letter from your attorneys. I heard that there was a boy in the girls' bathroom at Mesa. I asked the principal and my daughter's teacher directly. That is it. Not any other teachers, as this letter insinuates. So how is that being open? How is that being understanding of a parent? Not only that, but I've had multiple attorneys look at this letter. Title IX is quoted wrong. And the other attorneys believe you guys are getting very liberal legal advice. So you might want to look into that. It says here, you sent an email to Principal Blair stating, I was just informed a boy at Mesa comes dressed as a girl some days. I was told he wears dresses and uses the girls' bathroom, and girls have reported he's looking under the stalls. Can you confirm this? I was told if a student of the opposite gender at Mesa uses a bathroom, it would be the nurse's bathroom. Where in my question am I asking for personal information about the student? As this letter later implies, I'm not. But that is not only what this letter says, that is what members of this administration are going around town telling other people. So that is not listening to parents, that is not working with parents. I came last month and I met with a few of you individually and I asked simply, can we work together? I understand there are state and federal laws. I get it, your hands are tied. I understand your policies have to comply with that. But what you are responsible for is the message you put out to the public, 100%. You are putting out these policies and saying, addressing misinformation, implying that some of us are giving this information. No, we are not. Just like we are not asking for personal information about the transgender students. We are just asking for our students to be protected. As a parent, I am just asking what's going on in my daughter's school. There's a mom who couldn't be here tonight because her son had a musical program. I have a certified letter here from her for you guys, but I won't approach because I was also told when I came to speak to you last time after the meeting, that was uncivil. You all have access to my phone number. There's no need to call my pastor. You can call me. She said, to whom it may concern, it has come to my attention that Mesa is now allowing girls to use the boys' bathroom. A couple of weeks ago, my son had an uncomfortable situation arise when a child in his class, who is a boy but dresses like a girl, was using the restroom and said a child was watching him go to the bathroom. He came home, explained the situation. I called the school. His principal said she would speak to my son and other students, yet she has yet to do so. I'm writing today to bring some common sense to the situation. My child is 6 years old and should not have to feel uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form when using the bathroom. So again, a parent reaching out to the principal, which is what we're told to do as parents, and not getting any action.
Linda Drake.
Good evening. We want you to know we love our community's children in so many ways, which is why we do all we can for them. Maybe through Share the Warmth, or maybe to advocate for their safety and well-being. Share the Warmth update. Our fundraiser has officially ended this year, but I just wanted you guys to know that we raised $17,683 that we give to the Clovis children, to the Clovis school children. We give blankets, hoodies, sleeping bags was really a huge want this year. We give toiletries, diapers, wipes, socks, sweatsuits, shoes, just to mention a few. We give CATS passes so that high school kids can get to and from work. We give doctor's appointments for the eye doctors. Lots of kids need glasses, so we're giving them glasses this year. We give hotel vouchers. But I just wanted you guys to know, we don't always just come up here to gripe. We love the children and we do for the children of this community. And so that is Tina Baker, Haley Drake, Amanda Gonzalez, Jennifer Williams, and myself, Linda Drake. Just wanted you to know we do good for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Announcements, Ms. Russ? Well, it comes before the, do you want me to do
That's
the
all
recess
for
into
open
executive?
forum?
Yes, yeah, that's all open for.
November 25th through 29th, next week, will be no school for our students. Our campuses will be closed. That holiday break begins on the 27th for our district offices. We'll be meeting back here on December 17th for the next regular meeting. Winter holiday for campuses will be December 23rd through January 7th. District offices will return on January 2nd from the winter holiday.
All right, we have, we need to recess into executive session. And the exact wording that you need to say is on there, so.
All right, I'll make a motion that we recess into executive session pursuant to NMSA 10-15-1B, NMSA 1978 for discussion of disposal of real estate property.
Real property.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Can we get a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. President Osborne?
Yes.
Secretary Cordova?
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Martin?
Yes.
Okay, we are in recess. Okay. Hamilton, you're on deck.
Do we call it back to order?
Yes. I don't know.
Mr. Hamilton makes a motion.
But yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
I'd like to make a motion to reconvene from executive session where we only discussed the disposal of real property.
I'll second.
okay, can we get a roll call again, please?
Yes. President Osborne.
Yes.
Secretary Cordova,
Yes.
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Martin.
Yes.
We are back in session. Having said that, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Boy, Mr. Martin, I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Seconded by Mr. Cordova. All in favor?
Aye.
We are
Aye.
adjourned.
Let's go.